Innerverse. We are here for another live episode on dreaming and different perspectives. Alexis, how are you today?
I don't know. I guess I've been a little anxious today. Aside from that, I would say I feel like because it's colder than it's been in a while, like maybe like a week, and it's rainy and it's just kind of like gray. Like I've been feeling kind of moody, kind of like up and down. But hanging in there. How are
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, the same. I'm feeling a bit under the weather today. As Alexis said, the weather has been it's been a chilly week so far. And last week it was really nice. I mean, like there were some days where it was really hot. So it's like we kind of got swung back into the lower temperatures, plus it's like rainy. So it's like, bringing up, like washing up all like the pollen and all of that stuff. So I'm really feeling it. I've been doing good, like otherwise. But now I feel like the seasonal shifts are catching up with me. So bear with me, everyone. My throat is going to be probably a little bit scratchy. And also, I want to say too that if I cut in and out, it's totally my internet. So hopefully the energy will be good and we won't have any challenges with that. So, but if that happens, I'm letting you know ahead of time. All right. So, we're going to start with the few announcements that we have, and then we'll get into cosmic climate, the dream transits, and then we'll get into tonight's topic. So, as you all know, we have our upcoming Dream Circle on June 3rd, which is a Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And this is actually going to be I hate to say, our last Dream Circle for now. For the summer, we're taking a bit of a break because we have a lot going on this summer. And so it just feels right to kind of give energy and attention to like all the other events that are happening. And then we're going to return with our dream circle in the fall. And so we really would love to have you join us this for this, like a nice intimate sacred space for us to connect and share dreams. You can ask us questions, we can talk about the topics. And yeah, so the registration for that is going to be in the description of this video.
So the next announcement we want to bring up is that Urania and I have been participating with an app called Dramigos. That's Dreamigos. You can find this app on the App Store, the Apple App Store, or you can find it on the Google Play Store. It is a wonderful developing app where you can record your dreams in a variety of different ways. And if you'd like, you can put those dreams on something we call the Dreamline. Now, this is kind of like a public to the app, so like where all of the people who are on the app can see your dreams, which is great to build community, but also it gives you an opportunity to have dream experts come in and help through some interpretation or guidance. So you should go check that out, download it today, and you might be lucky and get one of us interpreting your dreams.
Absolutely. And this coming Tuesday, May 27th, I am going to be co-facilitating the Dream Circle with Dreamigos, and we're going to focus on the moon and dreams. So if you want to sit in circle, this is a free event. You can do it, and it's virtual. You can join us on Dreamigos, and I'll put the link to that in the description of this video as well. And again, that's on May 27th. So it's this coming Tuesday if you're listening to this as we publish it. And it's free and it's online. I think I said everything I needed to. Yeah. And also, I want to share that I'm going to be teaching a dream class that is coming up on June 1st. And this class is called The Sacred Art of Dream Divination. And basically, I'll be sharing the principles and techniques of dream incubation, so also known as dream incubation, which essentially is setting an intention for your dream space and asking, a question or asking for guidance or healing through your dreams, and how to ask the quote unquote right questions, also how to interpret the message and embody what comes through. So that is going to be on June 1st. at 2 p.m. Eastern time. And that is also virtual. I will also, the links are always going to be in the description of this video. If for some reason they're not, just comment or send me a message and we will add those links.
I also want to announce my class that's coming up on May 31st, Saturday. It'll be from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. at Gaia's Gifts in Washington, New Jersey. Now, this will be an in-person class, so it pertains mostly to people local to that area of Washington, New Jersey. And the dream class that I'll be teaching is going to be based around creating your own dream practice. So I'll be going into sleep hygiene, crystals, deities, herbs, and more, going around what you can include in your dream practice to kind of make it more ritual and more meaningful. So you can register today by calling 908 223 1331 at Gaia's Gifts. And I hope to see you there.
Yay. I love how old school that is. Like, it's like, call our shop for our
I
classes,
know.
like it's so personal. It's so direct. I love that. All right. So Mary's here. Mary says, hello, queens and guests. And Richard is here also and says, peace, love, and deep dreams to you all. Welcome in,
Welcome
everyone. Thank you for
in.
being here. Awesome. All right. So we're going to just briefly talk about the energy, my friends, the astrology, the cosmic climate, the dreams. Yeah, this week is going to be a bit of an interesting dynamic week. It's Gemini season. So here we are. The first day of Gemini was yesterday, May 20th. So we're recording this on May 21st. And yeah, I've been feeling, I've mentioned before, I don't know if I mentioned here, but I've said it in many different spaces that I tend to feel the energy like before the actual moment happens. So as the energy is changing, which makes sense, like I'm feeling
Yep.
essentially the change in the wind. And so I've been feeling just a lot of focus on consciousness, on the mind. And there's like an evolution within the mind and really like reprogramming our consciousness. And so yeah, I've been really feeling that, and the way that's been coming through in dreams has been like, interestingly enough, that we're having this conversation about perspectives, because that is like a Gemini type energy where it's kind of looking at the different perspectives and trying to, assess or figure out like what's the common like factor here, what's the common point, and what's at the core of what we're seeing or what we're telling or what we're experiencing. And so I'm really excited to see that manifest in the dream space. I've definitely had some like really profound awareness in my dreams, especially since we started talking about parallel realities. But we'll save all like the dream talk for next week's episode, where we reflect on the previous moon cycle. But in a nutshell, do you feel any of that like Gemini stimulation like in your dreams, as far as the activity, or just like a lot of like, I feel like a lot of engagement, a lot of connections probably being made in the dream space already?
Absolutely. I've noticed within the last just like couple days of my dream space, I've been interacting with a lot more dream people than before. A lot of communication, not a whole lot that I remember, but I remember the experience. And it's so funny because when I think of Gemini, I think of like expansive knowledge too. There's something like I feel like every Gemini I know, like at least Gemini Sun, like they just have such an intelligence, and I've been feeling almost like idea expansion in my own self, where like maybe things have been a little bit scattered. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
feeling a need to hone in on certain things and really take care of routine, schedule, and getting myself thinking about my next steps. So I'm
Yeah.
definitely feeling a lot of that energy.
Yeah, and what I really enjoyed about I mean, we're already in the beginning of this week, but yesterday, when Gemini season officially started, you could say, um, the moon had also reached her last quarter phase in Aquarius. So there's such a focus with this air energy, and with that last quarter phase, it is kind of getting this like dualistic perspective of our thoughts and our beliefs and just our consciousness as far as like, okay, what is serving us, what beliefs like do we feel that are in alignment with, you know, where we're moving, where we're going in the forward direction, and what's out of alignment. So there's a focus on releasing like beliefs and clearing out the consciousness. And with that Aquarius energy, it again, it's definitely connected to a higher mind, right? And so the first part of Gemini season, I'm definitely feeling with other alignments as well, is that there's a focus on clearing the consciousness, like clearing out, just like closing the tabs, right? If you got all these tabs open within your
Oh,
mind, like the scattered ideas and whatnot, like closing the tabs, clearing it out, and just simplifying. Again, looking at all these different points and ideas, what is the central, like what's the core of it all, right? And then focusing your energy on that. And so I'm really looking forward to, I'm calling in for the dream space essentially to present more of that understanding, okay, of like, okay, what's the core of, you know, my energy, where I'm going, what I need to kind of navigate and whatever's coming up for me with the guidance right now. So I'm looking forward to that.
that's so interesting you bring up the Aquarius moon energy that we just had, because with my moon being in Aquarius this weekend was particularly interesting in regards to lessons brought to the like forefront of my mind immediately, and then almost immediately resolved with like the help of external sources. But like it was a very quick, like, here's your lesson, you learned it, move on. And that doesn't
Mm-hmm.
happen like that quickly. So
Yeah.
it's kind of just funny with like the influence of almost being in Gemini, the tail end of the Taurus season, and then like that emphasis on the Aquarius moon, my Aquarius moon. I really had something that I don't experience too often happen. And it
Yeah.
was weird. It was definitely, it was a very quick lesson. It was like, you're not paying attention to yourself, you're not paying attention to your environment, you need to do what's best for you, and if you don't do it, like, you're
Yeah.
gonna have consequences to those actions. And like the steps I took to make sure I avoided that, all in like 24 48 hours. So
Yeah.
it was very intense.
And you can definitely expect more of that this weekend, because we have on Friday, so that's going to be May 23rd. The moon will reach her waning crescent phase in Aries. So what I'm getting to is that, like, since the moon is waning, right, and the energy is getting like quieter externally, there's such a focus internally. And I feel with that Aries energy, there's going to be like a lot of fire momentum inside, with whatever's coming up with the clearing, all of that. And then we also have Mercury aligning with Uranus in Taurus, which is like a breakthrough, especially of the mind, like a major breakthrough, a shift. And then I believe it's the same day or maybe the next day, the moon in Taurus will square Pluto and Aquarius. And so there's more that's coming up as far as like just the breakthrough and breaking through tension and getting like through some resistance, so to speak. And so again, just pay attention to your dream space this weekend, and always, right? We always say that.
Always.
But there's definitely like you can call in this energy and really work with it. You know, when you know what's coming up, like what the climate is. And so if you are really wanting to get to the root of your core beliefs, or maybe like negative beliefs, what are you really afraid of, why can't you really do this thing, meet your dream, you know, or meet that, yeah, call it forth through your dream, right?
Yes, yes.
Because
And
you're
I want,
connecting with the source that knows you the most, right? Your inner self. And so the way to
absolutely.
access that is through the dream space. So definitely take advantage of that.
Yeah, and if you have an opportunity, if you're somebody who does record your dreams and does record pretty consistently, go back to your dream journals and look back into your dream journals around this time of the year last year, this time of the year before, and see how your dreams, may have differed, may have lined up. record your dreams now and kind of compare and contrast where your lessons lie. I feel like that would be a really good opportunity to have a self-reflection and really dive into what you can move through and evolve into.
Absolutely. All right, so I'm really excited about this chat. And I didn't really think about it until we started talking about Gemini season just now, where I was like, okay, this is a perfect topic for Gemini season about different perspectives, different points of views in the dream. And so I'm curious for those of you watching live, listening to the replay, watching the replay, let us know what your default is as far as the perspective. I feel most people have the first person perspective, maybe the third. I feel like it's kind of like almost probably tied for first person and third person, but we'll also talk about second person perspective as well as the omniscient viewpoint and the out of body perspective. And so, yeah, I guess we'll just jump right in it. Do you want to start us out with the first person perspective? We're going to essentially just define what these are
Absolutely.
and maybe give some examples. And yeah, we'll just flow with the conversation. And of course, feel free to share in the comments your thoughts or if you have any questions along the way.
Yeah, so first person is basically you are existing in the dream, kind of like you're existing in real life, where your view is from your own eyes. So if you're walking, if you look down, you can see your hands. If you look side to side, you can see around you, but you can't see yourself. And you're living as, like, you're existing as this being through the lens of your own eyes, experiencing the dream as if you're living, as if you're like living in the waking realm. Now, most of my dreams are this way, where I'm the one in the experience. I'm living in my dreams like I would live day to day.
Mhm.
If say just an example, third person like is an outside perspective looking at you, not in the experience. That's not realistic to what like living in the waking life is like. So I would say the first person, the best way to describe it is you're living in your dream and walking around and observing just like you are in the waking space.
Yeah, and like I said, this is probably the most common, I would say, although in my research, I definitely found a lot of people were like third person, like,
Yeah,
um, and like one of the theme
a
or the
lot.
right, the themes for the first person essentially as far as like how these type of dreams or might help you or essentially what the focus on is personal growth, exploring your identity, like who you are, also possibly like you having control, like direct control of your life direction, of your choices, of your decision making within the dream, and being almost like a direct reflection of what's happening in your waking life, or just maybe the dreams are different, but the fact that it's in first person in the way in which we experience the external world, then there's some like correlation to that being, like your reality. Like it's like for you, Alexis, I think about how you say like you just close your eyes in this reality and wake up in another. So it mostly first person as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that was a great I didn't even think about this, but it's true. Like I close my eyes in one realm and open them in the other. And that's a great example of like dreaming in first person.
Yeah. All right. So third person, as Alexis said, it's like someone watching, or say in the case of your own dream, this is you watching yourself and like watching it as it's a movie, right? You're watching the whole scene. And so there was an article that I came across that I shared with Alexis, and I really enjoyed it because it kind of described, it talked about like video games. How
Mm-hmm.
for me, I can't do first person. Like it drives me crazy. Like if it's like first person, like they were saying the shooter games or any kind of like fighting games for that, that's like the virtual reality. That's really tough for me, although I do dream in first person. But with the third person, it's like, the other point of view, like say when you are playing a video game and you're watching your character do the things. Like you're controlling what your character's doing, but it's like an extension of you in a way, right? And
Hmm.
you're watching it in a
Sorry, you froze a
I know
little
I
there.
when I know I freeze because you freeze, but I know it's
I
my
like
internet.
stop. I'm like, oh, maybe it'll come back quick.
So everyone, if you are just joining, please bear with us. My internet is very choppy, so I might just freeze and I might like Alexis might freeze too in response to my freezing, but we're going to pick up the conversation. We're just going to do it naturally. So just vibe with us. Um
Yes.
so yeah. But yeah, with the third person I was saying that basically you're watching yourself interact with an environment, right? So you're like witnessing life like as an extension of yourself, right? And so I'm curious because these we've come across that a lot of people it's like first or third person, and so I came across comments because we also like looked at a Reddit post about this, and people were saying, oh, like, you know, they saw their face in their dream. And I'm curious if you've had a third person experience. I wish Jace was here because he mentioned I saw that I did a poll and he mentioned that he dreams in third person. So I'm like, do you see your face? Do you look the same? Like, do you change? I mean, I know we change characters sometimes. So I'm curious of like how that might show up when you have that perspective and you're seeing yourself, or are you just seeing like the back of yourself doing things? Like, how does that come out?
So, in my experience, because even though 90% of the time, even more than that, I would say I'm first person, something does happen throughout the dream here and there where I'll seamlessly kind of like very quickly switch to third person and then back to first person. So, like, for example, there is a dream where I was on a bus that had no like top part, and I had my like head back, my arms on the sides, and I was just feeling the sun radiating on me. And for
Mm,
like a moment, I could see myself as if I was looking at you doing that. I could see myself, and then I went right back into my that experience. Um, so I don't usually see the back of me. I
mm,
usually see the front of me when it is third person, which is interesting because just looking at the different comments on that Reddit post, there's so many different ideas and theories people come up with, like cinematic dreams, like it's like being played like a movie, which if I had an entirely third person perspective dream where it just felt like I was watching a movie, I don't know how I'd feel about that because that
yeah.
almost like I don't think I've ever experienced a full dream like that. Like I said, it like kind of ebbs and flows occasionally, but I almost feel like that's more of like an out of body, like an
Yeah.
out
Some
of
of these
like
do
an
blur,
out of astral body experience where like
right?
I'm somewhere else, I'm there, and then I come out of that like moment like version of myself for a moment and then go back in, and then when I wake up it's like I don't know, Russian nesting dolls.
Yeah. That's interesting too. Yeah, I definitely experience like when I'm thinking about my dreams, like as a whole, I feel that I'm like I said, I mostly dream in the first person, but sometimes it gets confusing because it definitely switches like within the dream. And so when I recall the dream, especially like doing this research, it's kind of confusing of who like I am in the dream sometimes. Like when I think about yeah, it's like, yeah, it's just hard to even put into words right now, apparently. But yeah, so it definitely switches back and forth. And so I know you often play video games and you play Sims. So that's a good like third person type. I mean, it could be a third
Yeah,
person, or when we'll talk about second person, it could be a second person, depends on how you relate to like the main character, if you're like making this you or you're just creating,
that's true. I never
characters.
thought about it like that.
So it's like I was considering, people who play video games. I'm like, okay, do you often, dream in third person since you're playing video games like third person? Or like my daughter's father, he plays a lot of like PvP. Well, actually his PvP, most of them are third person, but he's lately been playing like Halo and stuff. And so that is first person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you can do first person in Sims too. So it's like when
Yeah.
you do the first person in Sims, it's kind of funky, right? It almost does feel like you could be in a dream space because, and I'm just thinking about this with the PlayStation, but like you can zoom in and out of first person. So you can zoom out really far and everything
Yeah.
just feels like incredibly angular and like I don't know, it throws off your vision. It kind of made like I know that guy who was talking about in the article he was talking about how he felt very claustrophobic in first person, and when I think about that with like that aspect of the Sims and how kind of funky dreamlike it is, I can absolutely see how that could be perceived as claustrophobic because it does kind of feel funky.
Yeah. So, with the third person perspective, some of the major themes that you can experience in those dreams are like maybe the purpose is more of like a self reflection type experience, healing, shadow work type dreams, and also integration of like the different aspects of you. Right. So, as I mentioned, like I'm thinking about dreams where I've had a third person view, and when I think about it, it's confusing. Like, okay, was that actually me, or was I watching something that was more like second person? Um, so if you didn't have anything else to add about third person, we can go on a second person.
Well, real quick, I just want to mention that when I was reading the comments on that Reddit post and reflecting on the comment in the article where he kind of was trying to tell you that like it wasn't a sociopathic thing to do. What came through was like the dissociation. How maybe dreaming in third person is a sense of dissociation from oneself and
Yeah.
not being in the driver's seat, not being in control, just watching from afar in a safe place, disconnected. So that's been more disconnected in the waking space, and you're having more third person dreams in the dreaming space. It might be because of that, and it might be something you want to look into.
True. Very true. So, just hearing the first and third person perspective, do you, not you, Alexis, but those of you listening and watching, what is your default if it's one of those? I feel most people are first person, but I wasn't surprised. Like I know some people in the Reddit post, they were saying that people were surprised that they were dreaming in third person. Like that doesn't seem surprising. It's just not something that it seems like it would be common, you know?
I feel like people, like, especially if you're not really someone who talks about dreaming with other people often, then these things are probably going to surprise you because what you're experiencing is very objective to yourself. And so when
Yeah.
these people talk about it being a surprise, I just think that they're not in connection with people who also dream.
Yeah, true. All right. So the next perspective is a second perspective, which is interesting in the sense that essentially it's you watching others. So you might not even be in the dream, so to speak. Like you're kind of watching the dream. The dream is about someone else, so to speak, or something else, and you're just watching it. So again, it is kind of like that movie type experience. However, it's not about you. What
Yeah,
are your
second
thoughts
person
on that?
always confuses me. I don't even uh, honestly, it just confuses me. Like, is it you are not the main character, but you're telling the story? So you're telling the story about the main character from your perspective, like from you know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
if it's first person, that first person is the main character. Or if it's second person, are you telling the story? Are you dreaming about the main character rather than you being the main character?
Right. Yeah. Like it's like the dream, it's saying that the dream is happening to someone else. Say like you, Alexis. Like if it's my dream, it's the dream is happening to you or about you,
Yeah,
but I'm
like
watching that. So you
I'm
can, yeah.
experiencing it in your dream, even though it's your dream. You're not experiencing what's happening. You're just there to,
exactly. I'm just
yeah.
watching it again, like it's a story or movie.
So
And
weird.
right. And it said that these particular dreams, ship dreams. Did you hear that part?
I got ship dreams.
Okay, so it said that these type of dreams, good thing we're editing this for the Spotify, right? But nonetheless, so it's saying that these kind of dreams often happen in teaching or relationship dreams. So
Oh,
if it's
okay.
like
Like that, like
something,
a mentorship type of
yeah,
thing.
something like
That
that.
kind of makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah,
Hmm.
so it can also be like a guide coming through that you're connecting with, and it could be also like some sort of like your emotions are projected onto the scene, or your like what's going on with you is projected onto the scene, but it's not you, but it is about you.
Hmm. You know what I'm also thinking? This is kind of like not pertaining directly to second person, but just the perspectives in general. Like, I wonder if it has anything to do with your experience in the, whether you're in the astral, like traveling, or whether you're in like your own brain. You're like your own mind. Like the dream is a construction of your mind versus being elsewhere.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I
I
mean,
know, I
I'm
know
sure
that it's really
it could probably
complex.
be both for sure. Um, yeah, but I definitely, yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think of like I can think of some like I'm thinking of a dream in particular, but I was definitely in the dream. So yeah. I don't know if I know I'm sure I've had second person dreams, but I just can't recall them. And like now I hope
Okay.
that I have one, you know, a recent one. I would love to experience that just to like see what that's like
I would too, and I would
and
love to
share
hear
that.
what your experience would be too. Like
Yeah.
I'm intrigued for my own, but also intrigued to hear what your experience would be because
Yeah.
honestly, I don't, out of all of the dreams that I've written down and not written down, none of them match that description.
Yeah. All right. So, or do you feel good with second person?
Oh, I'm good with
Or do you
second
think,
person.
okay.
Second person was not my fave. I have nothing to
Yeah.
go off of with that, so I'm ready to move on.
Yeah. Let us know what you guys think about the second person. I got a comment here. Mary says, have you dreamed seeing yourself, but you were cautioned fatal if you'd meet yourself? It was so anxious, hard to avoid yourself in a dream. Oh, so did you meet yourself in a dream? Is that what you're saying, Mary?
Sounds like time travel-y. You know,
Yeah,
like
like you entered
if
into
you're,
a parallel reality where you met yourself.
or like you know how in movies and stories where like you go back in time, you can't like let your previous self know that you're your future self, or something bad will happen.
Yeah. We have another comment here. This was a little bit earlier from Richard, but I'm going to share it. So, Richard says, I'm into it. Gemini here. My perspectives and dreams are often of me, but seems like they can slip into being anyone while keeping my overall inner witness of me still intact, even while I am them. So that sounds like a
Oh,
bit of the second person, like a flipping between first and second, actually.
that's actually so cool. The way he described it made more sense than what I was trying to like learn via the
Yeah.
internet. Like when I was
Yeah.
researching, I was like, oh, but him saying like that he switches around different characters within the dream, like he, that makes so much more sense. Yeah, I've never
Mm.
switched to be another character. I've always just been me.
Yeah, I want to say that I can't say with conviction that I have or have not. So I'm gonna have to search through my dream journals again. All right, so moving forward to omniscient. I think I'm saying that right. So this was an
Yeah, that's
interesting
how they've
one.
said it in the video.
Okay, cool. This is an interesting one. This is the perspective from like a higher awareness, a higher viewpoint. I do feel also like there's some element of like out of body as well. And then they also, just in my research, pointed to this being more of like being not disassociated, but being more of a collective, like, so collective consciousness dreams might fit into this. So there's more of a focus on feeling detached from a singular identity. So you're a part of like a wholeness, right? So there's a greater perspective. So of course you're going to get like those kind of like spirit guide or just that kind of type of dream, if that makes sense. Am I making sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what I got, so I looked this up and I got it based on how you would perceive that in like storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I wanted to understand from that perspective as well to help me with understanding it in my dream space. But basically, this is where like the dreamer or the narrator knows everything about the dream or story and can move through time freely. So
Mm-hmm.
they can tell us what every character is thinking and feeling. They can tell us about the ending. They can tell us about things that the dream people or the dream characters don't know. So like you're all knowing. So kind of what you said, like being
Yeah.
that outside being, yeah,
Yeah, like you're part of like
source.
you're like, yeah, all that is basically. Like
Yeah.
in the dream, you're all that is, and you know all that is
Yep.
basically. Yeah, and that kind of makes sense too. Um, as far as there's like when I came across in my research that there's a connection to lucid dreaming as well. Like you can definitely like lucid dreaming is like it's a bit of first person, but also can be more of this omniscient viewpoint of, depending on how you want to take it. I feel when you're at that level of consciousness, like you might not necessarily know what's going on with the whole entire dream and just having the supreme knowingness. Like sometimes you can, sometimes you don't, but there is like this kind of like higher awareness that you can direct the dream, that you can create the dream, and that you're no longer essentially bound by ego within the dream, and that connection to that, so you can kind of explore in a more expansive way within your dream and see things in more of an expansive way.
Absolutely. And that brings me to what you just said, where like omniscient is kind of like everything, but then there's also limited omniscient, which is like focusing, and feel everything about the dreamer and the dream, but not necessarily the other dream people. Where like you can have different, I guess, intensities of knowing.
Yeah. Yeah, this is really interesting. I also came across too that they would also place dream telepathy or dream sharing in this category as well, which I think is interesting. I like when I'm starting to see all these different like points or just what's underneath this umbrella of omniscient viewpoint, it seems that there's like when you really start to break through like even the bounds of like a typical dream, right? Because when you have like a dream sharing, essentially, what I'm thinking is when you have like either you have an intention or it just happens where you meet a friend or whoever in the dream, you guys basically have the same dream the same night, or with say within I would say like a day or so, or maybe 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that in itself, that's also under the like umbrella of this
Ooh,
viewpoint. Yeah.
that's
So
awesome.
being able to communicate with another through dreams and to share a dream. So it just feels like you're tapped into some like very high perspective and awareness in the dream.
Absolutely.
So yeah, you
Absolutely.
definitely had this. I know we were talking about before we hopped on. You're like, oh, I feel mostly first person, third person. But I'm like, you definitely had dreams like these type of dreams, the
Oh,
omniscient.
absolutely. Both of us with this. Like
Yeah.
just thinking back at all of the dreams that we've shared with each other, like we both have had this type of outside experience um like that. That's so interesting. And it
Yeah.
is, thinking about the dream telepathy too, that just blows my mind. That is there's so much to that. And I feel like that's something we should do a episode on just
Yeah.
in
That's a good
general
one.
because it's so complex and interesting.
Yeah. And Mary mentions here that she's dreamt about of consulting with Jesus as he watched me and what her decision would be. And I feel like those connections with spirit guides, with other beings, definitely fits under that perspective as well, because you are tapping into like higher states of awareness to be able to be at that frequency, to have those type of engagements. Definitely feels
Absolutely.
in alignment with that.
Even the dream I was talking to you about the other day, I think it was a couple days ago, with like being in that like store where I could see this other being psychic from like I don't know. It was just really outside of myself, and the whole experience felt like I was elsewhere. Just thinking about that dream, like I'm not going to go too much detail with it, but it really feels, yeah, that's, I definitely have had those dreams before.
Yeah. Anything else you want to add on this perspective, or
No, this is
feel good about
opening
this?
my eyes, opening
Yeah,
my perspective more.
when it comes to this particular perspective, I'll add to the typical themes can be past life journeys and insights, collective healing, archetypal journeys, and mystical or prophetic visions, right? So these are like supreme otherworldly out there type experiences. So
Oh, I love
fun
that.
stuff. Yes, I
I
love
love
it
it.
too. Okay, so our final perspective is the out of body, which how would you describe that, Alexis?
So I feel like the out of body experience is like what I have written down is the experience where you felt that your mind or your awareness was separated from your physical body, traveling for, like, for example, like traveling, like if you're astral traveling,
Yeah.
or astral projection. But I definitely astral travel. I don't really astral project.
Hmm.
But you are separate from yourself. Where, like, when I think about, okay, you can dream and be within your own brain space, or you can dream and be outside of your brain space somewhere else. That's kind of where my separation lies with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. So it's essentially you have no body, basically. You're
Mm-hmm.
disembodied, and you are kind of floating, hovering, or this is how you're like, there's just like, you feel so much lighter. There's no heaviness. Because of course, I'm thinking about astral projection, especially the dream that I had recently. That was definitely a part of that dream, was definitely out of body with the hovering and the way my body was moving. So I would say
Yep.
that was that kind of perspective. But then when I think about dreams that I astral travel, it's just like, there's just a lightness to it. Like it's just like you're just energy. You don't even, I mean, maybe sometimes you can feel like the floating and the hovering, but you're just existing, right?
Yeah,
There,
absolutely.
um, and so that's really common, of course, as we mentioned in astral travel. I would say in, of course, astral projection, lucid dreaming. That's really
Yep.
are, of course, out of body experiences.
Okay.
I froze.
I
I
froze a
saw
little
you
bit.
freeze. Okay,
It
so I'll
gets
start again.
really quiet in the room, and I'm just like, ugh.
I think I froze again.
No, you're good now.
I'm good. Okay.
Yeah, you're
Because
good
I
now.
got a message that says the internet's unstable. Okay. So oh no. So typical themes for this perspective, of course, out of body experiences such as like astral projection. Then also they mentioned the contact with guides or ancestors. So which I feel that in itself can be some sort of astral travel, cosmic journeys, aka astral travel.
Yeah.
And then just having that connection with like the divine connection or unity consciousness. So also there's an element of the collective being a part of like all that is like that source, right? And so I mean, the main thing is that you're not connected to a body, like you're just energy,
Yeah.
you're just existing.
Yep. It makes me think, I made the reference of like when my astral self disconnects from my astral self. So I'm it's kind of like Russian nesting dolls. Another dream that I had that reminds me of this perspective would be a dream where I had died and I floated away, like my astral floated away from my physical quote unquote body in the dream and like watched from afar as like a spirit. Um, and how just that feels so, I mean, I literally felt myself moving out of my body and it was just a really insane experience and that like also I died, so that experience in general was just a whole
That was a whole
but
thing. Yeah.
but the
Well, that
essence of
reminds
me
me
just
of,
floating
yeah.
outside of
Yeah,
everything.
well, that's literally how I experienced that astral projection, at least in the dream, where it was like 1 minute I'm in first person, and then the next minute I'm like, I felt the detachment from my
Yep.
body. Like I felt that transition. So that felt like what you experienced feels like astral projection as well.
Yeah, it was
Um,
so interesting and so weird. Like, I don't know how it was for you, but when I had essentially died in this dream, the feeling of my like essence leaving that body felt almost like what it would feel like to bleed out. And trigger warning, this is a little dark, but where like everything just got freezing cold and then numb.
oh, interesting.
Like I could feel even like outside of the that space and far away from where like so I basically died in a building that was burning and I was just kind of from a distance existing in that essence and I could feel the wind blowing, but it was a different kind of cold to what I had experienced leaving that body in the dream. It's just a really
Interesting. You know
insane.
what? I'm thinking when you're saying this, I'm like, maybe you were tuning into another reality that, like, when you did die in that reality, because I'm thinking about how, it's said that everything's happening all at once in our different lives are informing, like, we're getting intelligence and information from those different lives, like, right now in this moment. We're just not very conscious of it. But sometimes when you have those aha moments, or maybe you get a feeling, or like all of a sudden you're like, I'm tired, or I feel sick, just random shit, right?
It's like
Um,
signaling.
but it could be, just like if you think about the oneness of yourself, and if we're broken up into these like little fragments and experiencing other different realities, like it's like you kind of get it as a oneness, as a wholeness type experience, just like a little bit of it, or you get some information, right? And so that's why a lot of us, we're even tapping into those really powerful ancient lives, past lives where, we're unlocking this information. But what if we're doing that and working and learning in another lifetime and we tune into it? So anyways, long way to say that I see that dream could possibly have been you like tuning into that life, that reality of like when that happened, and it's like, oh, you're coming out of it, you know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
you're
And I even think
experiencing
about
that while
that
you're
in
sleeping.
time too, like how that could be played in time. Like it could be past or future or at the moment. And the idea that it could be literally like anywhere in space and time is outrageous. I mean, look, I'm still stuck on the like I thought of this theory last week when we did the archive chat for portals and how like to me I was thinking about how our physical bodies are vessels, they're portals for us to travel to the waking and the unconscious, the conscious and the unconscious. Like we are the portal to either conscious or unconscious. And just like the idea of that to me is just still in my brain. Like every time we have a conversation like this, my brain goes wild and I think about this
Yep.
stuff for weeks.
Mind blown. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's really interesting too, because it's like, okay, this is our vehicle here for this physical reality. And then we go to sleep, and then we can go tune in and do what we got to do. I'm just going to share briefly right now because it's really short, just since it's on topic. But the dream I had this morning, which is funny, ever since we talked about parallel realities, and that conversation was in alignment with a lot of other things that I've been tuning into. And so my dreams have been kind of reflecting that. And I had a dream this morning where I was like hanging out with some friends and we were talking about middle school. Like we were hanging out, like I would be like my age now, and we are talking about middle school. And I was like agreeing with the memories and everything. And I was like, hold up. No, we went to this middle school, not this one. And they were like, no, this is the school we went to. Like, what are you talking about? Like I had memories of both things. And I couldn't necessarily be like, this memory belongs here, this memory belongs to this school. But in the dream, I literally was like, okay, I think this is a pair. Like, I think I'm in another reality where we went to middle school here. And it was funny because the people that I was talking to, they were actually friends that I worked with in my early 20s in the waking life. So I was like, well, what if we went to school together in another life, but in this life, this reality, we work together, right? So
Yeah,
it's
like
like,
false
it's so,
memories.
right. Yeah. Like it's
Well, not
different.
even
You know, we
false,
just,
just
yeah, like we were
dis
living different role. Yeah.
like poorly sorted memories. You know, I always think
Right.
about when I think about this stuff, I always think about this one time where I had this memory of kissing someone in my class. I mean, we were in like third grade, but I had this memory of kissing someone under a desk, and I brought it up to them a couple times throughout, like, I don't know, the time it happened to like before we graduated middle school, because then we didn't talk after that. But it never happened. But like I have such a concrete memory of this experience that it feels like I tapped into another like parallel reality or something.
Yeah. No, that's always, I could like talk about, there's going to have to be a part two to parallel realities.
We will have to. It's too big. It's too big. We can continue on over and over again. And you know, I love the idea too that like you had a whole other experience in a whole other type of school.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, so maybe in this life, I know you guys because we work together, but maybe in a different parallel life, we went to middle school together. It
Yeah.
was just so because it was a group of people that I worked with. But I'm like, I didn't go to middle school with you guys. Like I met you after I graduated high school. So it was just really interesting. But like that awareness, you know, I don't even know what perspective that would be. I mean, but it was just like and a part of me feels like when I think about it, I feel like it was a third person perspective because I can see myself. Like at least when I'm reflecting on the dream, I see myself, but I'm like in the dream, was I like watching the scene?
Yeah.
So it's hard to kind of like pinpoint. So I
Yeah.
did a poll yesterday. I'm just trying to pull it up of like what perspectives people had. Now I took the first person perspective out of the equation because I mean that I feel like most
I know.
people would be like first person and it's like no.
I
So
literally was looking for first person, and then I like I saw your little comment, so it was like excluding first person. I was
first
like, oh
person
shit.
aside. Right. Yeah. So, I mean, and I think I can only have four choices anyways, but I guess I should have checked because that's not fair. Because I'm like, okay, we all dream in first person. So what's the next one? So we got 45% for third person. So that was like the greatest one. 27% said out of body, 18% said second person, and then 9% said omniscient. So
Interesting.
yeah, a lot
Wow.
of out of bodies.
Yeah, a lot of out of bodies, which I get. You know, and going back, not to separate from this and go back to what we were talking about just a minute ago. But what it also makes me think about too, with like tapping into different realities or timelines, is when you meet someone and you feel like you've known them your entire life.
Mm.
Is that because you have in another life, in another time?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of biased because my like my nodal axis, so my south node and my north node are My south node is in the first house, my north node is in the seventh. And literally not everyone that I meet is like a soulmate, you know, connection, but people that I'm very close to, it's like we're like this. It's either like we're cool or it's like we're like this.
Yeah.
So, and I know that especially because my life at this point is so spiritual, like this is my life, that
Yeah.
it's like it's hard for me to even be friends with people that are just like secular or not. They, I mean, they would probably, I would probably annoy the shit out of them. So it's like most of the people that I interact with on, like all the people that I interact on a day-to-day basis, I would say are soulmates. And it's not a
Yeah.
lot of people. Like I can count on two hands, if that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so
I definitely feel that. I didn't know your North Node was in your seventh house. That's so interesting.
yeah, so it's Taurus, North Node in Taurus, South Node in Scorpio.
That's so
That South Node
interesting.
is brutal. Yeah, because my Saturn's right there too. It's like right on my ascendant. So,
Yeah, because I think my North Node is in the 12th house in Libra, and then my South Node is in Aries
hmm,
in the sixth house.
yeah,
Yeah, and that's whatever.
the whole thing.
That's all.
But yeah, so I definitely, and it's interesting too because now I'm thinking about it, and all most of my, it's rare that I dream about someone that I don't know.
That
Like
is
all of the
interesting.
dream people are people that I know.
That is
Like,
so, and you've said that before. Like, we've had a conversation about that before, where, like, you've mentioned just the familiarity of the people that you have experiences with in the unconscious. And it always intrigues me because I feel like, yeah, I have people who I'm familiar with come in, but most of the time, I have no freaking clue who most of the people in my dream are. Like, they are so random. Like, I don't know. I have to be like obsessed with an actor for them to like show up in my dream, or like, of course George and you'll show up, and like my sister will show up, like but not as often as just random unknowns.
what I think is really weird, and I mean, obviously, we're not going to go deep into this, but I'm just going to point it out is that Alexis, your parents, like, like are always in my, they've been in my dreams like 3 or 4 times. And I'm like, what the heck? And the fact, and what's really crazy is that like, I've never met them. I mean, of course that you've talked about them before, but like their personalities in the dream are very close to like their personalities in waking life from what I've heard from you and what I shared.
Yeah.
Because you were like, oh, I wonder how they were. And it was like, I mean, the very first dream that they were in, they were like hosting like a little gathering, like we were at a bar in their house and everything. And it was like, it kind of matched up to, you know, somewhat to how they
Oh,
are. Like,
oh yeah,
and
and
it's just like,
they have a bar in their house. So
right.
it's
Yeah,
like
that's right.
it's just so funny and so weird that
Like that to
I
me,
almost
I
want
feel
you to
that we're
meet them just so you can kind of like
right.
compare and contrast
Yeah.
dream parents to waking parents.
Yeah. No, that
It's
would be
funny.
so interesting. But yeah, there was one other thing I was gonna point out, but yeah, but now I can't remember. But yeah, I mean, now I'm just like, I could just keep talking. I wish my internet wasn't being all funky, but
I
um,
have to say it wasn't that bad. It
it
did it a
wasn't that
few
bad.
times, but it was pretty like I've had my internet glitch when I've had like thunderstorms, like
Yeah.
and I would go off so frequently. It was like I might as well just cut myself out of the episode.
Right. Yeah. That's why I'm like, thank goodness I'm editing this for Spotify. So if you want to hear a clean version without, you know, definitely listen to Spotify. Please like this video if you enjoy this chat and follow us, subscribe if you want to keep in touch. But I'm not necessarily closing it out. I just wanted to kind of throw that in
No.
there.
No, and
But I don't
please
know.
leave comments underneath the video. Let us know what perspective you tend to dream in, your thoughts and feelings on the different perspectives you may want to dream about. Urania is teaching a class on dream incubation. You could dream incubate having a dream from a different perspective.
I might do that. I'm like,
Yeah.
which one? I feel like the second person is intriguing because I can't think of any. I don't know. We'll see. I do have to do a little experiment too for the class, so I'm kind of behind on that. So I
Ooh,
think this will be interesting.
I'm excited. I don't
Yeah.
know if I think I'm just gonna let it come naturally and see what
Yeah.
happens. I'm
Yeah.
like not super well, whatever happens. So, second person. I don't think I want to have a third person dream. I really like being in control of myself.
Yeah.
Like, because I feel like third person, you're not really in control. Whereas like
Yeah, I think
first
it could
person, you're
vary.
like the vehicle, the control. You can do things.
Yeah. I'm sure it varies too. Um, but yeah, if there are any topics that you all would like to hear us discuss, definitely feel free to share. Just comment on one of the videos. You can email us at um the innerverse podcast at gmail.com, and you can share your dreams there too, right? If you want us to discuss the dreams. The next episode, the next live chat is going to be dream dark moon dream reflection. So we're going to be reflecting on the past moon cycle that began with the Taurus new moon. And so that's going to be interesting. I have a really crazy dream to share. If I, oh my gosh, I'm like, do I remember it? I wrote it down. I shared it with someone. I didn't share it with Alexis, so I'm excited because pretty sure this is the one that your family was in. Speaking of that.
I'm excited.
So,
I'm excited. I am excited to share my dreams too. I've had a couple like they've been I've had some really profound dreams, and I've had some like dreams that seemed profound but are still kind of like lingering in the back of my head that I have to pull them forward. And then I have had some dreams that are just like whatever. So I'm excited to share some of those dreams and hear from you guys and learn about how you've been feeling in your dream space the last moon cycle. Please let us know, comment below or message us, email us, all of the things that you can do. We would really like to know. I mean, it's so crazy to kind of do the experiment of like from one moon cycle to the next where your dreams are, where your dreams have been, what they reflect in regards to like the time of the year, the like sign that we're in, the just everything involved. So go ahead and let us know. No pressure.
nice. Perfect. All right, everyone. Well, we will see you next week. And thank you so much for being here. Thank you again for showing your support, subscribing, and liking our content. And we will see you all next week for a Dark Moon Dream reflection chat. Sweet dreams.
Sweet dreams.
Really 1 second.